And I said, well, I'm not really an actor. And you're like, it's fine. No one will ever see it. You go, you sure? No one will ever see it. Yes.
Listen, in my defense, I did not know it would blow up like that. I did not know.
Hello, my friends. I'm really happy to have two of my favorite people, Ingrid Schneider, Wade Yamaguchi, who helped, and I wouldn't even say helped, probably are instrumental in 97% of helping me get my little movie made for Camino Unreal. Welcome, you two.
Thanks.
Hello,
Dr.
glad to
Chris
be here.
Voth. Dr. Voth.
So probably people listening to this, watching this, have not seen this little film, which is, really a travesty that they haven't, but eventually will. So I'm going to kind of get to how that got made first, but let's talk about how we met each other. So Ingrid, I'm going to start with you. Do you have any recollection of how we first knew each other?
Yeah, I sat down at the bar at Comedy Works.
Typical.
Yeah, typical. Chris and I both worked at Comedy Works, and I was up in the restaurant on the second floor called Lucy, and I sat at the bar, and he had a burger with fries, and he said, "Please do not touch my food." And I knew him barely from, like, putting him on stage, like, not like we had ever had a conversation, but like, hey, you're up kind of scenario. And that was the first thing he said to me. And I said, okay, I'm not going to touch your food. So that was how we met. And it was, just a true friendship ever since then.
I feel the exact same way today, which is please don't touch my food. And also, then you also would often say right before I went on stage that you thought I had a hair or something on my shirt.
Yeah, it's my favorite game to play with you. Yeah, a wrinkle.
Which would be all I would fixate on for the entire time I was on stage. Like, I know it was a joke, but it also could be true. There could be something. And if someone saw me on stage, we can go, oh, that's impeccably dressed. It wouldn't be that, but I would, in my mind, I'm trying to have it look a certain way.
I don't know, Wade, if you've ever seen Chris's shirts, but when he goes on stage, everything's meticulous and put so together so well. So I just
I know.
kind of realized at one point in time, I would be like, oh, if I said there's a wrinkle in his shirt, that would just really get under his skin. So that was my fun.
Because at that point, I can't do anything about it. A little hair, I could do something, but the wrinkle, I can't go home, although I would like to, and then re-iron. I've told this before, but you may not be surprised by this. In high school, I used to go home at lunch and re-iron my clothes before I went back to school for the afternoon. I did, yes.
Dang. That's so sad.
Other people were out having a good time at lunch, and I was home steaming away, making sure that...
I think that's on brand for you, though. It surprises me.
I have not changed a bit. There's a lot of things that I established. Here comes my girl right now, but she's going to just walk by. She's just kind of looking. My girl's my cat, in case anybody has questions about whether or not I could cohabitate with another human. Okay, so then a few years later, because this leads into Wade, because this story, can you hear her?
Yeah, I can hear her meowing.
Oh, yep, I heard.
Yeah. She's not happy. I've moved some tables around, and it's not exactly the way she would like it. Yeah, so how does she get that attitude? I don't know.
I was going to say, she's your cat.
So a few years later, after you stopped working there, I don't know, you called or texted or something and said, hey, I want you to do this project. And do you remember how you pitched this project to me?
I'm sure I pitched it really well. Really truthful, really that no one would ever see this video that we were going to make.
That's the key. That is the key to it was, I'm doing this video, and what I need you to do, it's a private video, and not like kind of that private, but it's
for a book release, yeah.
Yes, for a book release that's going to be shown just when this person goes on stage. And it will be, you're going to play this guy who's irritated that a gay couple moved next door. And I said, well, I'm not really an actor. And you're like, it's fine. No one will ever see it. You go, you sure? No one will ever see it. Yes.
Listen, in my defense, I did not know it would blow up like that. I did not know.
Yeah. No one knew, really.
And
I didn't know.
So then that's how I meet Wade, because then I go do this little video thing. And Wade, you probably didn't know the backstory of that I was promised no one would ever see it.
I think Ingrid told me something like that.
Okay.
She was like, "Yeah, I've got this friend. He's a comedian. He'll do great on camera. He can kind of take some direction. It'll be great. And that this is going to be a small project, and he's fine with it being small." I think was kind of the words that she said. So I was like, "Oh yeah, just this little short film that we're doing."
You actually recall these words? It was like 13 years ago, and you recall these words.
If I'm on under oath, I'll make it even clearer. But yes, I'm sure this is exactly. It'll be in the lawsuit. And I don't know what the last time, I haven't looked because I'm afraid to look, but do you remember the last time you looked to see how many views that little video that was put online?
I think it's like close
it's
to
a lot.
4 million, maybe.
Yeah.
It's over
4 or 5 million.
Last time I saw it, when it was a couple million, I went, okay. Yeah, people are seeing this. And I've had a few students who found it.
No way.
And yeah.
Wow.
I had one, I'll be careful how I say this, but he at the time, I think he's non-binary now, but and I knew enough about him to go just to be cautious. Amazing person. That's beside the point, but I was concerned about the content of the video, that it might be offensive to him or something. It's not offensive, but the topic anyway. So all he sent me like a screenshot, and there's an email of that video, and he just wrote 2 words: "Explain this," is all he wrote. And my heart sank in my stomach. I'm like, oh my. And I just ignored it for a couple of days, and finally said something. I go, yeah, so what? And he goes, yeah, what is that? And I said, well, does it bother you? He goes, no, I just was wondering, what is this? It doesn't make any sense to me. And then I go, oh, okay. Whew. I was just nervous that he was
Oh my
upset.
gosh. 5.3 million.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, even more now.
So if I sue for $1 for every person that saw it when you said no one would see it, that's about right. Once we get the fees, we'll be able to make another film. That's a good news.
I think you signed it.
So anyway,
Yeah.
we did that little film, and it was a good experience. And then a few years later, I wanted to do this idea about doing my special kind of a thing, which is basically just lived in hard drives primarily. I put out a few things. And then I wrote this script, mostly during lockdown, where for someone else, and they didn't read it necessarily. So I tried to figure out how could I make this. And I think I talked to you, Wade, first about it. Mm-hmm. And then you sent me to a couple of people who said that maybe these people would be good. Right? Something like that. Is that how you remember it?
Yep. You're like, hey, I've got this movie. I was like, great, this sounds really big. Why don't you talk to somebody that knows how to do this stuff a little bit better?
And then the first guy, or maybe I don't know who, I think it was just one person that I talked with. I gave a basic explanation. He goes, oh, I love the idea. I love this. And we could probably low budget something 150, 250,000 probably. I'm like, great. Well, this is what I don't have is 150 to. So that was his low budget idea about how to do it. So then I sat on it for a couple months, and then I finally, and this is one of those great moments, Wade, you're an amazing person for doing this. I just texted you or called you and said, look, I know we can't do it, but what's the lowest, how can we do this like a basement, below basement numbers? And we figured out a way to make it happen. Or actually, you did. I thought we didn't. You did. You agreed to do it for a certain amount that was way low, and even that I said, okay, can we go half of that? Maybe. I don't know what it was, but it was. Yep. I just want to make it. I just wanted to make it, and you were amazing about being gracious about making that happen. So anyway, so we did the film. That was the fall of 22 that we shot it in 3 days, and well, let me ask you, when you got the script that I had written, I've never written a script before. Any sort of feedback or ideas you had when you first read it? Like, oh boy, this is very amateur hour.
Well, it's funny because my perspective going into this whole project was that it was going to be more of kind of like ad lib, kind of non-rehearsed. Like, yeah, there's a script, but we're just going to kind of go off the cuff and kind of do our own thing and not have to be super tight to the actual script. And so my thought was like, oh yeah, it's just going to be like, more of like a comedy special kind of vibe where there's an outline and they're just going to talk about, and dive into these different topics essentially. And we're going to cover it in a way that we can cut it together. And so when I read the script, I didn't read it like an actual movie script. I read it more as like an overview of like, this is how it's probably going to be. But when we shoot it, we're going to go, it's going to sound way different because we're going to kind of just do what we want to do. And so like the first day when we got in and you wanted to be really, exact to the script, I was like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing it.
You mean first day is in like the first of 3 days of shooting?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yep.
Yeah, to clarify, there's only 3 days of shooting, so it wasn't like it was 2 weeks of working on this. This was one real quick one shot of what it was going to be. Like, so it's 3 days, and so if you say, well, the first day we're just working on stuff, that's a third of the whole shooting schedule was already gone. For anyway, that is interesting because I don't think I knew that.
No,
I know I didn't know that. So, well, then I'm going to blame that on Ingrid. Ingrid.
Well, I can blame it on myself just because it was my way of justifying the lower expense. I was like, okay, this is going to be kind of easy. I'm going to make it easy, as far as like doing one take for everything. We're just going to do it as fast as we can, super run and gun. So it was more of my like perception of like, okay, I'm going to make this as easy as possible.
Okay, so Ingrid, what was your response when you got the script and first read what I poured out my heart onto the page?
I thought it was good, and I think I texted Wade like, this is actually really good. Not that I didn't expect anything less from you. I mean, I've known you for years. I know that you're super creative. I know who you are. And I also know that when you believe in something, you get it done. Like, if you are, I don't want to use the word stubborn, but you're like stubborn in the best way, and you get things over the finish line for sure. So I read it and I texted Wade and I was like, this is actually good. And not actually like I didn't expect it to be good, but like it was better than I thought it was going to be honest. So I think it was witty, it was clever, it was very intellectually written. I think that's actually what I expected from you though, too. With all of the callbacks and using the books as kind of the key to the whole book, the whole script. Like it was just really intelligently written. So that was my take on it.
Thank you. I'll just say thanks. I think that means it was okay. I had many worries about one, since I'd never written a script, is it going to be terrible? And then I had someone else read it as well that said, yeah, no, it's pretty good. Actually, two people that have made films said it's good. It works in all the points. How are you going to make it? That was kind of the question. I go, I don't know that part. And then it was, how do we reduce it down once we figured out, okay, we can only do 3 days. That's all I can sort of muster in terms of what I have in my savings account. How do we get this to 3 days? How do we cut out a few of the scenes, or at least combine some things to make it into 3? So one of the pieces of advice I got from somebody who had done their own film was be super ready on day one, because all you're going to be on camera. That's what was part of me to be on camera, which was what I was mostly nervous about, was that I was going to be terrible. But that you're going to be thinking of all the other things, but the only thing that's going to matter is your face, because that's what they're going to see. So yes, and I couldn't get past all that. Like I had so much in my head when we started, which was, I don't know how any of this is going to work, if this is going to be terrible, all that. So I don't know if that came across so much, Wade, initially the first day, but I was out of my mind. Like I couldn't even focus on what I was supposed to be doing with my face on camera because I was just so worried about everything else.
Yeah, I mean that first day was a lot. I mean, that first scene was a ton of dialogue that you had to do at first. I mean, it was really difficult. Like for you having to jump in, especially like not really acting in a dialogue heavy film before, like just jumping into the deep end like right away. Like I was nervous for you, to be honest. I was like, man, I'm glad I'm not in your shoes because this is really intense. But at the same time, like I trusted your intuition, and I knew, like Ingrid was saying, I knew you're going to do a good job. And so there was a part of me where I was like, I didn't want to give you a ton of direction because I knew that you kind of already knew exactly how you wanted to do the delivery. And so that was a big part of my perspective going into it. It was like, you have this on lockdown. It's more for me, the technical side, making sure that I've got 3 cameras rolling, that it looks pretty good, and then just, try. And then Ingrid making sure that she had all of the reading the scripts and doing the script supervising and making sure that we had all our lines like that. That's when we started going through all the dialogue. There were times where I was like, I don't know if we got it all, like, to be honest, because we're shooting like 3, 4, 5 pages at a time, and it was like, whoa.
Yeah. So back to your initial thought, that is kind of what I thought in some ways, except the way I write my jokes, they're very word specific. So they're not like an idea. They're very word specific about this, how this joke goes. So I knew that I had written it that way. What I wasn't prepared for sure, was that I didn't know it word for word, even though I wrote it word for word. I mean, so I wrote it all, and I kind of thought, well, it'll just make sense to me, but I was not there. And so all the other things I was doing, that was the part I'd really failed, was to sit and memorize all of the lines. And that became really clear in the first, let's say, 10 seconds, when I went, oh no, I know generally how this scene goes. And then Ingrid's like, you missed that line. And I was like, yeah, I'm probably going to miss a lot of lines because I don't really know it. And luckily Sam, who was in that first scene, knew it all. So he was fine. And then it became a thing of like, all right, well, now I need to figure out how I'm going to actually do this. And when I watch it, I can see all that in my face, like right at the beginning. I can see all of that when I watch the film now and go, oh, there is full panic in that person right there on that first couple of lines. And then also, I try not to do this, but I was looking around at some of the other stuff that was going on, and it's the part that we haven't cut out, but if you watch it, you see someone pulls into the parking lot and pulls up pretty close to like where one of the cameras is. And so I'm talking and my eyes go and watch that person and glare at them as they're doing that. Well, I'm supposed to be in the scene, but in my head, I'm thinking, didn't we close this parking lot off? Wasn't that one of the things we had clear? Like that sort of. And that was like all that in the first hour. And I thought, all right, this is going to be too much if I don't focus on what we're doing here, because I'm going to get lost in crazy land in my head.
Yeah. Well, I think though, for that first scene, it plays well for your character arc because you have a lot of anxiety. The character has a lot of anxiety. They just got out of court. And so I think we all got really lucky in that sense where it worked quite well,
And it works a little too well with Sam. And one of the things now, as I rethink it, I think if I'd known Sam was going to be that good in what that was, that kind of a character needed to be later on in a place where there need to be levity. Not, it sort of starts out the movie with like, oh, is it going to be goofy the whole time? And then it's not really that sort of tone the rest of the time.
Right.
It works out fine because, like I said, it was all we could do. It's not like we had a ton of ideas or ways to get around that. But yeah, it was really, and so that idea too, after the first day, because we shot at 2, or did we do 3 different locations? Yeah, we did 3 the first day, right? Because we did the truck, we did at the creek, and then we did the first ones in the vehicle.
It was the parked truck.
Yeah.
At the river.
Oh yeah, so we didn't do any driving, I don't think, the first day, or maybe we did. No, I don't think so. So that was, but that's what it was after day 1. That's when I went home and went, okay, I need to figure this out because we're not going to be able to get through 60 more pages in 2 days if we go at this pace. It just wasn't going to work. We were going to go a lot faster.
Did you sleep,
it was
Chris?
one day that I figured it out, and then figured out, okay, I can do these little notes, and then I can figure out the dialogue quicker, and we could go back and forth. And then after that, I felt like it worked fine. It just, I wanted to redo that first day so badly. Go, oh, now I know how to do this. But we were already a third of the way done.
Yeah.
But
yep.
Yeah.
Did you sleep at night, Chris?
I was so tired. So yes, I slept some. But if you also recall, the day 2 was, we ended shooting around 2 because I had to do a 4-hour drive to do a gig that night. do the gig, and then drive 4 hours back and get home at 1 or 2 in the morning. So that I didn't sleep so much the next night. I mean, I only had a few hours, but and to back up to that, the reason I had done that was because the idea was, oh, this is a road gig. This guy's doing a road gig. I've got a road gig in the middle of the week. Wouldn't it be great to just incorporate that all together so you get the realism of actually going to do a road gig? But once we figured out that wasn't going to be usable, then it became a huge pain to now have a road gig in the middle of our shoot where I need to drive 8-hour round trip to make it whatever. Maybe it was 6. But
Well, yeah, because the original idea was that we were going to film on your way to Salida, right? We're going to go up to 85 or whatever, and then you'd be like an hour away, and then you would just be done. Yeah. But that didn't work out that way.
As usual. When you left after day 1, I know we texted a little bit. Did you think, oh, this isn't going to happen? Or do you feel like, oh, we can do this? I mean, honestly.
Well, I knew that we'd get it done. I think more of my question was like you were saying, like, we've got to figure out a way that you could kind of be able to see your lines quickly and continue the scene instead of having to stop all the time and ask for lines. So that I didn't know what that solution was. So the fact that you were able to kind of figure out the note system and make that work, I think that was huge.
Yeah, I mean,
I doubted.
And like I said, once I figured that out, then I was relaxed enough to say, well, we can do this. It'll just be, can we do it fast enough to now, get it all the way done? And I wasn't sure about all the driving stuff and how that was going to look. To name drop Bobcat, he had said to me, he said, if I had known you were going to do driving the whole time, I would have told you don't do that as your first film. Like, the hardest thing to do the continuity of having stuff in the background at all. Like, the background's always moving and changing, so it just makes it really hard for editing. When we sat and did those editing so many times, it's like, well, it doesn't quite look the same, but we don't have options. It's just what it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'd go home and count pages.
You what?
I went home and counted pages every night. I'd be like, okay, how many pages are really blank? Like, because, some of the pages in the script were blank and they weren't really pages. So I'd be like, how many pages do we actually have to do to get through the next day? And there were some moments of panic that we would make it in the 3 days from me, for sure. But we did it, so.
Yeah. What would be, so we finished it in basically 2.5 because we took, or now 2 3/4 because we didn't even do that full middle day because I had to go do a gig. But you guys did some other B-roll, I think, or some other stuff during that time. At least got a few things. And when we finished shooting, so we didn't really know. I saw some of the stills, but I didn't know, does it look okay? Do I look okay? Of course, it's very self-conscious about all that. Turns out I don't look okay, but it looked fantastic as a film. What were when we finished shooting after 3 days, what was your thought process at that point? What were you feeling at that?
Well, for me, my biggest worry was the car footage, mainly because we had a pretty big technical problem with 2 of the cameras that we had rigged up, because for every scene I would always shoot on 3 cameras, just because we needed to have the coverage and be able to cut between the 2 people, because it was all dialogue, and so for all the car stuff we would rig up 1 camera in the middle and then 2 cameras on the side to get the different singles. And the 2 cameras that were on the side doing the singles, those cameras kept shutting down in the middle of the takes, because what I came to realize later, these particular cameras, when there's micro vibrations, the camera will just stop recording to protect the sensor. And so this started happening pretty quickly after we actually, come to think of it now, when we filmed the first car scene in the truck, it was totally fine. But then when we got the Corvette out and we rigged up the Corvette, that's when we started having the problems, because there was more vibration from the Corvette. And so that when we started filming the Corvette, that's when it stopped recording. And so luckily one of the cameras was a different model, and which was the center kind of 2 shot that was wider. So that one was always recording and never stopped, but it was the side cameras that would stop on us. And so I was kind of worried, like, if we were going to have enough to do the edit for those scenes. And I also knew, because it was driving and I couldn't monitor the cameras, I was like, I don't even know if it's going to look good. And there was one scene where there was a really hard glare on the two single cameras from the sun hitting the windshield that we couldn't even use any of the shots because we couldn't see who was inside. And so that's what I was pretty worried about. I knew, because I was operating the cameras, that all the stationary stuff outside of the vehicles, I knew all that stuff looked really pretty good. And I was super confident in those scenes because I was there operating the cameras. But yeah, that I had some hesitation for sure going into the edit, being like, well, I think I know we had the content. I knew that we had covered the script, that we got all the scenes, but I didn't know if I was going to have enough to make it interesting as far as cutting between the people and then hide. The other big thing was hiding the moments where Chris, you were looking at the camera, or you were looking down at your notes, and then you'd look over and do your scenes, and then you'd look down. And so there was a lot of times where I was having to cut between you guys looking at your notes and then being in character and having your eye line correct. And so I was like, man, there's with when those cameras cut and shut down, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to hide that stuff. And I think we did, honestly, when I look at the final, I think we did a pretty good job hiding that stuff. I think there's only one time where you do kind of see one of the characters look down a little bit. But it's kind of motivated because I think, Chris, it was you, because I think you were shifting or something with the vehicle. And so it was kind of motivated, like you were looking down to maybe shift or something. So yeah, that was definitely, that was my little bit of anxiety.
Well, so yeah, there was one where there's a few when I'm doing that. I think it looks for me as the driver, shifting seems fine. There was one where Clinton did it, a very long one, but he made it seem like he was thinking. But he's clearly reading it. But yeah, that was again, like if we had someone to be able to see that. Now the difference between those cameras you're talking about, and this was terrifying to other people who saw the actual stills of this. In my old truck, we had the cameras inside, but on the Corvette, we had them on the hood, suction cupped onto the hood. So that also probably made most of the vibration was the wind just moving them, because that engine runs much smoother than the truck, which was essentially, as I had it tuned up later, by the way, and he was surprised that the left front wheel had not come off in the truck.
Oh,
it was that out of like whack and not hardly even connected. So just an FYI about that one. He said, I don't know how he didn't lose this front. And it's not even, he just showed me, he's like, look at this. It just sort of just not even, he said, didn't you feel it? I go, yeah, of course I felt it, but it's also, everything about that truck is all messed up. Anyway, so yes, we didn't have the room in the side of the car. And so now you have suction cupped cameras to the front of a $70,000 car, and hope something doesn't go wrong that destroys the front end, or whatever. That wouldn't ruin the engine, but it would just be some of the damage of all the other things. But it turned out fine.
We didn't have any like big problems like that with cameras falling off or getting ruined that way. It was, luckily we.
Yeah, I think the only real trouble spot was having Christy drive the Corvette, and I was really concerned about that we're going to lose the transmission, or that we're going to drive off the road, and some other stuff was going to happen during that time. But yes, that was very stressful. Yeah,
that was stressful for everybody. That was. Yep.
And I guess that kind of works with that scene anyway, so it was okay. But yeah, that was okay. So we shoot it. And then edit, and I thinking, I was like, wait, I don't know, is it okay? Is it whatever? And then we show the first one, and it's funny that I was worried initially when I first started writing this thing. I kept being told I didn't have enough pages, like it wasn't going to be a long enough film. And then so it kept adding more dialogue, and then when we shot it and we did it all, it probably could have been 2 hours, right? Like something like that. It could have been close to that.
Yeah.
If we left in all the stuff, and then we started cutting And I think the first version you sent me was probably hour 45, hour 48, something like that.
Yep. Yep.
And then we sat together, and I don't know how many rounds you would count that we actually edited. Way more than was probably planned, but ended up getting it down to like, I think it's an hour 23. Is that what something like that? Hour 22, somewhere right in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then we also worked in the other stuff with the poem and all that, which was a whole separate thing. But I just, my remembrance at the end of it was, after the 3 days, was I don't know if it's going to be any good at all. I don't know if we got all the things we need to have, but I felt this incredible sense of relief that I had done something that I'd never done before, and incredible creative satisfaction about acting, which I'd never, the little thing we did, whatever many years ago, 10 years ago, I knew wasn't mine. So it's just, I thought, I don't know what that is, and no one will ever see it anyway. So it's no big deal. But this one, I just felt really good about it. Not because I thought it was good, but I just felt it was just something I'd never done. So I felt this incredible sense of accomplishment, even though I was still worried it was going to be terrible and that I'd ruined it by being a bad actor. But it was creatively more fulfilling than I ever thought it would be, because I had no desire to ever act. So anyway, that's my perspective of that. At the end of it,
do you want to act
even
again?
If it's terrible at the end, I go, well, we got something.
Yeah. Do you ever want to act again, Chris? Like, is that something that, like...
Yeah. No, that made me want to do it. I mean, I'm acting right now. Look at me. I'm like I'm like kind of a normal person. No. So I had a brief, I don't know, about an hour discussion with this incredible person named Eva, who is like an acting coach, who's like this premier high level acting coach. And she called, we talked the day before, and she was so generous in her time to talk to me and said a couple of things that were really powerful and helped me. But one of them was, this is supposed to be fun. You chose to do this for enjoyable. So try to remember to have fun while doing it, because it's going to go fast and they'll be over, and you may not have spent any amount of time feeling joy in the process. So I had to try to remember that, which is very difficult for me because I'm not that person that likes to feel joy. It's not part of my ethos. But I did love, once we got past the first part where I was just so crazy nervous, that it was good. Then I felt like, this is fun. We're going to do this. And I also saw that I have terrible, because I wasn't really directing. Wade, we were sort of, I guess, shared directing and how that was going. I was listening to what I thought it was supposed to be, and I didn't. It's amazing how different it looks on camera from what I thought it was in my head. Like in terms of tone. I don't know if you've had that experience. You maybe not on camera as much, but it was just different. It didn't. Parts where I thought, oh, that didn't work, when on camera it looked like it worked fine, and I didn't think it. Sometimes it didn't have. It was hard to trust that later. I don't know, I didn't even think it would look like that.
Would you ever want to actually just direct, like be behind the camera and have other actors? Is that something that you'd like to do?
Yes, if they were willing to be directed in a way that was a very casual. So the only thing I don't care about a lot of it, but I care about the timing of delivering jokes, specifically. So that was the hard part for me in those moments where I was trying to let everybody say it the way they would say it, even though in my head that's not the way I wrote it, and I was trying to think, okay, I think that works fine to say it that way. It'll probably work in a different way. But, I'm in the middle of the scene with them and trying to figure out, does that work? Does that serve what it needs to serve? It probably is fine. Because I didn't, and I only did probably once where I did a direct line reading to say, no, I want you to say it this way. So, and I know that can be very touchy with real actors and things. So luckily I use my friends who were okay with me doing that. But yes, I would have, at least in my head, I can visualize what I would like it to look like and sound like. But that was what was great with working with you, Wade, was I would just say, I think it should look like this, but I don't know how to do cameras and all that. You set up and shoot it the way it'll make sense. And so, anyway,
I have two questions.
I'm not that much of a control freak, but I am in terms of words and how the joke should go.
I have a question.
Am I a
Chris?
Control freak, Ingrid?
Not at all. Yes, 100%. That's okay. We still love you. It actually can be one of your biggest strengths, honestly, and it's why you get good results. But I do have a question about the car, and I think you need to paint a picture for people that haven't seen the movie of the two cars, number one. And number two, why did we run out of gas in the middle of the shoot? And let's talk about that, your little escapade there. I'd like to know that story.
My escapade?
Yeah.
So
it wasn't my escapade.
Partly the reason we use those vehicles because those are my 3 vehicles. And one's more of like, what's the cheapest way? What's the most inexpensive way? And I did have some people ask me, what did it cost to rent the Corvette for a couple of days? Well, that turns out not to be a huge cost. I mean, it's a cost in general, but so we used primarily. I have an old '72 truck that we used, and the idea of this journey is supposed to be that halfway or somewhere during the time they need to have change into a different vehicle, and so I also had up until a couple weeks ago, '64 Corvette, and I bought it because with this movie in mind, partially, but mostly it was like, I would like to once in my life have a car that makes no sense whatsoever to have and is way too expensive and is just frivolous. So I definitely did that. And then once I got it, then I was too scared to drive it because I didn't want to mess it up. And that turned out to be true. That even a little chip on the side of my final cost, which we shot around. I don't think you never see it in the film. A little chip on the wheel well ended up being like $8,500 to have that fixed, and that was like a 1 inch by ½ inch little chip that happened. But it had to fix the fiberglass and then repaint all the way the side and all the way back around over to not the trunk, but whatever the trunk will place would be, because there's no spot to like cut it to stop painting to have that line. So it's just anyway. So yeah. So this actually goes back. I'm sure this has never occurred to anyone watching it, but when first time I read The Hunger Games, I was amazed at how well it was designed. I assume you've read them at some point, but I think it's been a while. But I think there's an end with some sort of a scene at the end, which would be a dilemma that you go, oh, I wonder how they're going to get out of this to start the next chapter. And then you would go, okay, well, I'm going to read the first part of the next chapter just so I know how they get out of this situation. And then each chapter does that, and it would just keep pushing you along. So I had that thought about doing this. This was to end each of the chapters with a dilemma where you'd need to go to the next one to figure out how they're going to get out of it. And as we were trying to figure out, the original script had them going into a gas station, had a couple other things that, whatever. Being run off the road, some sort of road rage thing, some other things like that. Along the way, all these problems that could happen on a road trip. So we had to amend that because of just 3 days of shooting and time and all that sort of stuff. So that's how I figured out how to have the two vehicles, and that's how that became the thing, was to do those 2 vehicles. And it needed to have I felt like the main character needed to have me, I guess, to some degree, had to lose control at the end and give away control at the end. So someone else needed to drive this expensive car. And so in real life, it's happening as we're shooting it. And in the script, it's happening where I have to go, this person needs to drive this car, even though they don't know how to drive this car very well.
So you want to talk about
what you're
Christy
seeing
driving
is
the car?
Real fear in my eyes in both ways. Does that seem like what you guys were experiencing?
Oh yeah,
Ingrid. Okay,
Then yes, 100,
and because it's an old car, for whatever reason, the gauge doesn't work for. It didn't show if it was full or empty, so I was just a guess on my part how much was in there. So that's why we ran out of gas, because I hadn't thought about how. I didn't think we would have been driving that much, but I'm sure the back and forth.
Because we were driving on one road, like back and forth, like up and down this one road.
Yeah,
yes.
We're really giving away the secrets. And I think that road worked great. And my thought was that if the leaves are changing, we can get at the right time, it will add another element to the film, so it'll make it seem bigger, that look at how beautiful this was. And we probably missed it by a week. So there is some leaf changing, but you never know how that's going to go. And it turns out it was like a week later, it was bright gold going down that same road, but that's fine.
And did Christy grind the gears at all when she was driving that Corvette?
Did she not grind the gears? I guess it would be the question. We stalled out a couple times, Ingrid, so yes.
I mean, I was there, I know, but I'm just looking for your commentary, really.
On that.
I mean, I think
there
I think
was
people need to know how great that whole scenario was. That was the best for me. That was the best part of the whole filming.
yes. I'm going to have Christiana talk about it so that she can defend herself. Within 2 minutes, I was in my head trying to figure out if I could rewrite the scripts where she didn't drive it. I literally was that going, and I think I even asked you, Wade, is it possible that we don't have her drive it?
You asked me too. Yeah, you did.
Yep, I remember that. Yeah, because she just could not get it to go. I mean, the scariest part for me was I was with Ingrid in her Forerunner, and we were behind you guys, and you guys were in the Corvette right in front of us, and we were on the side of the road. She's trying to start it up, and she's, she puts the clutch in, and it's not holding the brake, and you guys start backing up towards us. And I was like, oh no, we're going to get an accident. That was the scariest part. I thought for sure. Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm getting uncomfortable now. I've blocked a lot of it out. Yeah, and then
PTSD.
We're in a little road. So there's you got to do it's a stick. So you got to do all the things. And I guess we can say it. I mean, Christy has cerebral palsy, and her feet are the ones that don't work so well. So this was really the most critical part of trying to get her to get in the all that happening. And so that was, I thought, would be built into the scenario, but we never show enough of that in the film to make that a second element that people would understand. Only people who know us know that.
Yeah.
It was my thought, which is why she would have a dance studio anyway. But again, I'll talk with her directly about that. Yes. We also drove off the side of the road a couple times, just even going very slowly with her driving. And that also made me, because the way those cars are, they don't have independent suspension. It's basically like a bar that goes across. So if you lift the car up, the wheels go down almost like they're almost not perpendicular to the ground, but they're pretty close because it's just springs. So going off the side like that really yanks with all of it, because they're not like independent. It's all one big bar. Anyway, all of that was going on while we're trying to somehow say our lines and to get through what we had, probably an hour left of sunlight to try to nail that last.
That's right.
One. Yeah.
Yep.
There was some stress there.
Yeah. That was the couple days where we were getting into losing light. That definitely became kind of stressful for sure. Yep.
Okay, Ingrid, let me ask you this personal question then. Was I a difficult person for everyone else to deal with on set?
Sorry, I coughed.
Because you're trying to muffle the laugh? I think that's what was happening.
Maybe a little. I don't. Chris, I think, how long have we been? When did I work at Comedy Works? Like 2000.
No, that's not the question. You're backtracking.
No, listen. No, I want to tell. I want to tell. This is important to the question. It's relevant information. I've known you for years. Are you difficult to work with? I don't think so. Probably why Wade asked me to help. But I know how you're going to react to them. I mean, we're friends. We're good friends. But not like I'm your best friend. But I know how you're going to react to most things. So. Was I shocked about anything? No. Were you difficult? No. Did you want things a certain way? Yes. But that's also the beauty of an artist who wants to get things done, right? Like, it didn't bother me. I don't think it bothered Wade at all. And we both know you, so no. I don't think you were difficult to work with. If you're looking for a funny answer...
What's that?
I said, if you're looking for a funny answer, I don't have one.
No, I was not looking for I was looking for a real answer because I have watched other people do it really well. And be able to handle those situations and make everyone feel great. I was trying to do that at the same time of trying to keep us moving towards something that was, I think if we had more time, I could have been in a different mindset, but I felt the stress of
yes,
we have so much to do in so little time, and I really would like to get these things right. And I also like it like this, if all my money is going into this, I would like it to be good, and I don't want it to be terrible. So I was a little concerned about that.
There's a couple things. Yes, there was a lot at risk, right? Like, we only have 3 days. Wait, didn't you have to leave the next day? Like, you couldn't even shoot another day if we had to. I don't remember, but
probably
it was a big deal. Like, we had to get this done. And also, I don't think that you were an ass at all in any of it. Like, I feel like we were all stressed out. Like, of course, we laughed a lot because the three of us always kind of laugh a lot. And I mean, who doesn't love Wade's laugh? Anytime you can make Wade laugh, it's a bonus because he's got the best laugh in the world. But I think that also it was real stress because we were, you paid a lot of money to get this done and we wanted to get it done and we didn't want it to suck either because it's a reflection of us too, right? Like I didn't, want it to be horrible. And actually my boyfriend who went to the premiere with me was like laughing because he's like, I thought that was going to be way worse, like shooting a movie in 3 days. And I was like, you ass. Like, what are you expecting? Like some low budget motel film?
No. It was not low budget. It was no budget. So that's what, yes, as we... Because, when you say we did it 3 days, 25,000, everyone says that they go, oh, that's nothing. And yes, it's nothing unless it all comes out of your savings account. Then it feels like something. And it feels like that's a chunk of money it took me a little while to make. So I've done lots of things that lose money, so I get that, but I didn't want to I just didn't want to pour it down the drain for nothing. And so I wanted something at least I could go, hey, I can do something besides tell these jokes. I can maybe do something,
How many awards did it win?
And so
Chris?
I guess I should run ahead of that after we edit it and put it together. And I think it's okay. I don't think it's terrible. And Wade kept saying, no, it's good. And I go, I think so. But, I wasn't sure. And then, I started submitting to a bunch of different things. And there's, obviously we didn't do Sundance or anything like that. But some of these smaller festivals and things. And just to win a few awards and get accepted into some of it felt great because we ended up getting, I think, 7 different acceptance or award type things. One of those was best poster, so it doesn't reflect much of what we did. But even going to the New York thing where won the best no budget film, which is 25,000 or less, was really cool. And I have no idea if they even had. Maybe we were the only one. I don't know. But it felt great that it felt like something. This was good. It was good. I mean, we could have more budget, done other things, but with what we had, everything, I thought we put together a pretty good film.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think for me, I wish personally that we could have had more time to shoot and some more resources, and especially with the car stuff. Like I talked about some of the technical issues that we had. Like if we could have had, the ability to do it right, I think it could have definitely elevated the project for sure. But I mean, honestly, for what we did, it's quite impressive. Like for someone that really knows the ins and outs of what it takes to make a feature length film, like what we did is kind of crazy.
Yeah. That's what I'm told. But I didn't know enough either way. But people just say, I can't believe you did this like that fast. And also when you watch even like these short films, I watch short films at some other people. And at the end, it scrolls through and there's 25 people that were a part of it. You go, oh,
yeah.
That was like a 7-minute film. And we had, other than actors, who are the 2 guys you had? So make sure we say their names.
Yeah, it was a camera operator. I had a camera operator and then a sound mixer. So it was me and then 2 other people. So it was essentially a crew of 3 plus Ingrid, and she was helping produce. So there was 4 people essentially that were behind the camera to make it all happen.
And then so then 3 other actors, 4 other actors. How many?
Yeah,
I can't remember. And yes, and those were also on a time crunch too, as to when they flew in and flew out. So it wasn't like we had a bunch of extra days to do any of that stuff. So that's where we really we had that Friday left to do anything that we missed, which we did a little bit of drone stuff. But and that's when we ran out of gas. Not when there was other people around.
Yeah.
But we didn't have any other actors that day, so it was just me at that point. So and I was flying out the next morning, I think. Something like that.
Oh, no, it was you. You were the one that had the heart out because you had a show.
What it was. Yeah, you had a show.
I think that's why we had to only do it in 3 days.
Wednesday. But Friday, it was good on Friday, Saturday. I think I was okay. That was why I chose that week, because if something happened and we got rain or something, that I could still do it. But I had, with Kyle, he flew in the morning and flew out in the afternoon. So he was on the ground only 7 hours. So we had to do his part. during
Yeah,
that Thursday morning. And you know, those Southwest flights, that could be another $200, Wade. So
I know.
right there. So when something I didn't know before we really got going with this is that you'd want to do long form features. So how does this play into that in your mind, or how to, like, since that it's now been a year since we did this, how does that play into what you want to do in the future?
Yeah, I mean,
And
what I really want to do for sure is be, real specifically be the director of photography or cinematographer for feature length kind of projects, and have it be narrative driven. If that's TV shows or movies, obviously I'm open to obviously whatever, but that's always been my dream. Like when I first started out making videos, I always wanted to do movies. A lot of it kind of started out just documentaries. I wanted to do documentaries, and I did lots of that, and then it kind of morphed more into kind of the narrative side. I started doing some scripted content and realized that I really like it. And so I think for me, I love the collaboration process of collaborating like with a director, with production and actors and all that kind of stuff. And so for me, like this is, I think it's just a way to flex a muscle, a narrative muscle that I don't get to flex very often, because now, like right now, I primarily am a director of photography for commercials. And then I also do a lot of editing for commercials. And so I'm in the commercial world a lot, and it's my profession. It's kind of what I do. And I work with a lot of different advertising agencies. And I still enjoy it, and it provides me a way to provide for my family. But still, that the dream is to work on movies. It's something that it's always been a love of mine, and I think in this industry, a lot of it's just having the experience of working on narratives, and a lot of times it's having a decent resume where you can go on your IMDb and you can see like, oh, this guy, he's been the DP for 4 different feature films. Like he would be someone that we could trust. So yeah, I mean, it's like this project for me is a little bit of a resume builder, but I think it's also just what it comes down to is more relationship. When I think of this particular project, like I've known Ingrid for many, many years, and we've done a lot of different kind of nonprofit type work together. And then Chris, we've worked on other stuff, as we've talked about. And so for me, it's like, I know that in my career, like having good relationships has panned out way more than my actual resume, or, even like, I didn't go to college. Like I don't have an actual 4-year degree. I've just learned on my own and just been a good friend to the people that I work with, and they end up calling again. And so I think, yeah, for me, it's like this project, Chris, is just like believing in you as creative professional and knowing that you are taking steps towards wanting to work on these narrative projects. And I know that you've got great connections, and I think that this project is just a launching pad. And then, the whole hope is that because we're friends, that you'll bring me on to the next one, and then the next one,
Yeah,
And so that's what it comes down to, is like, I just want to be good friends with the people that I'm working with. And I hope that they bring me along to the cool things that they're doing. Really.
So, well, thank you for all that. That was, yeah, that was why I thought it could work, is because I thought we're close enough friends that we could say, if you need to tell me this is not working, or be able to say it directly in a way where we could handle all that. And we have talked about other ideas I have, or we have. So are you not so much wanting to write original stuff, more of shooting it?
Yeah. For me, I just want to shoot.
Yeah.
That's all I really care about. That's what gets me kind of passionate and excited about projects, is the production side.
It's so exactly the opposite for me, which is to say, I have in my head stories and jokes and things. Someone needs to do the other part. I don't know how to do the other part, and not that interested, but I just know this is what I would like where it to go, how does someone do that other stuff? And that's
Yeah.
why that really worked for us on this one, which is to say, I think it's this, and we worked out pretty quickly, even like the outside the truck, which I think we extended one more chapter of us doing that, which was, all right, if I stand this side, maybe move this way, you walk. The blocking of that was pretty quick. And then it was just set up and shoot it. And once we've kind of talked through all that.
Yep.
Ingrid, are you still there, or did we lose you completely?
No, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I'm not sure.
We might have lost her.
Can you hear me?
I guess that's fine.
Can you hear me?
Well, she did end the call.
Yeah, her name is still there. It's just maybe this is the background. Well, it's been like one of the coolest things to do, and I've been happy that people have liked the film enough to go, it's not terrible, which was always my goal, and it's been fun to kind of see that. And I'm also excited now I have other ideas about writing stuff, and I just have to now work other jobs to get enough money to eventually try to do this kind of thing again. We are going to show it one more time publicly, and then I believe it'll just live online as kind of of somewhere, but I have to figure all that out. I have to find out what is the worst way to do it money-wise, and then that's the route I will take. What will cost me the most money? Be least effective, and that's usually how I do it. But real quick about the education part, because of the theme of my podcast. So you were really self-taught in all this, or did you take some classes, or did not even take classes to do?
So I did 1 year at an undergrad school in Colorado, and it was, the idea was that I was going to go for broadcasting. And the only program they had was communications for broadcasting. So I was like, well, this seems close enough to what I want to do. I want to make documentaries. I want to make, I want to be a storyteller. And so I, started taking general ed classes, and I took a January term class it was Intro to Film Studies. And I just fell in love with it. Like, that class was amazing. Like, we talked about film theory, but it was a January term. So I took that class for a month, and I loved it. And then after it was over, I was like, okay, what's next? What's the next one? And they're like, well, unfortunately, this is the only film-centric class that we have in our program. Everything else is more kind of towards journalism and traditional broadcasting. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, that's a problem, because I want to do this. Like, this class is what I want to do. The other stuff, I have no interest in doing. And so basically what I did was I ended up deciding to take like a year off, just kind of get a job and try to figure out what I wanted to do. And I was looking into other film schools and other educational opportunities that I had. And basically I just started kind of learning on my own, as far as, learning how to edit maybe a little bit better, maybe getting some better camera equipment to use, reading lots of blogs. And basically I got to this point where I was like, I think I'm kind of good at this. I think I know how to do it. And so there was a production company that I knew the owner of pretty well. And I told him kind of my story and what I wanted to do. And I was in this dilemma of like, should I go to school? Should I go to another film school? Or should I just try to start working? And so this guy that was a good friend was basically like, hey, if you want to get into this, he's like, I'll hire you, but you need to have the equipment so that I can send you out to do shoots on your own, and you just can't use all my stuff all the time. And so for me, it just kind of became this decision where my parents, they had money saved up for me for a traditional 4-year degree. And I approached them and I asked if I could use that money to buy video equipment. And I was super, super lucky in the sense that they were very supportive, and they were able to kind of invest into my company. And I was able to buy all the equipment that I needed for video production. And so I started working for this guy. And And then I slowly started getting clients. And I mean, all along, like still kind of not knowing what I was doing, but I had a lot of passion. And so it was like all I did. Like I would just spend hours and hours reading blogs and figuring out how to do certain things in the editing program. And so I just continued to grind, and I somehow made it work. And so 13 years later, I now have a, I guess, semi-successful career. And I didn't really go to a traditional 4-year degree, which, and now that I've been doing this, been in the industry, as I guess you could say, for a while, there, it is more common for people that are, especially like crew members for film sets. A lot of them won't go to school because it's really a trade when it comes down to it for the production side. Like you can go in and become an intern on a film set, or you can be a production assistant for somebody, and then you just slowly kind of work your way up the ladder until you get to do what you want to do. And then, so being in Colorado, it's unique because I didn't have the ability to be on big film sets, because there's not a whole lot of production that happens here. And so I think I was on, I think I like crewed 1 or 2 like feature films where I was like a grip or something, or PA, where I did kind of learn a lot in that sense. But most of what I've done has been like on my own, kind of doing a one-man band stuff where I'm essentially like the director, producer, editor, DP. I did everything, and that's kind of how I really was able to learn really a lot of the different aspects of making videos. So yeah, that's kind of my story.
That is a great route. I think that says something about when I talk to students about what college, when they do the one-to-one, they say, well, is it worth it for this and this? So in your case, it's an example of you would give up money that you would have needed for equipment, but probably if you went to a film school in LA, you would have connection. Like you're sort of doing a thing of like either you're doing one or the other, almost a thing. Because I feel like one of the reasons for college is to make the people that you went to college with are people you would not have met just at the coffee shop or a restaurant or whatever. That's part of what it is. But that's a really expensive gamble that you hope that in your 4 years at USC film school, after you spent $200,000, did you meet enough of the right people or whatever? But I mean, that's part of the game. Is there's both on those anyway. In that discussion about whether or not college is worth it for a lot of people, that's the one I say, don't forget this, which is not something you can even measure. You won't know, but you'll probably meet people in college that you will have never met before, which may turn out to be the most important people or may not be. You don't know. So
for sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to kind of wrap this up. And Ingrid's not shown on here, so it may show up. I know she's texted us now privately.
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
We still see your name and the red light, Ingrid. So if you're out there, you can still talk. We'll see if it connects to this later. But I can't thank both of you enough for helping me complete this little project of Camino Unreal. And it's just, I appreciate your friendship and willingness to work with me and making this happen. And hopefully we'll do another one someday. We'll do another one of these. I would love to do that. Make another film, do something project like that would be great.
I'm ready.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And I'm sure if Ingrid was talking, she would say thank you as well, that I'm one of her favorite people ever. Something along those lines. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I'm guessing that's what she would say. But anyway, thanks a lot. And we will talk to you guys soon.
Camino Unreal, Camino Unreal. Have you seen Chris's movie? Yeah, I'm talking to you. If you've seen Hunger Games, well, that'll give you a clue. The way these three met, hard to believe. It starts with a video that no one would see. Only 4 million views make that 5.3. Explain this, it's a big mystery. Basement below basement is Ward's forte. Chris's girls is his cat, who's into feng shui. Ingrid loves to put hair on a shirt. They're all good friends, which sure doesn't hurt. The movie starts off goofy, word to the wise. If you're into that, then you're in for a surprise. Miss Golden leaves by a week. Wonder if Ingrid will ever speak. Best no-budget film ever made. 'Cause they call him One Take Wade. Yeah. Oh, One Take Wade. Camino Unreal. Camino Unreal. Do they give away secrets? No, not that much. But if that's Chris's food, well, you best not touch. Things to remember, oh, don't forget. Never let Christy drive that Corvette. They talk about stuff that did or did not suck, like why that left wheel didn't fall off the truck. Chris is stubborn in the best way, a control freak, not an ass. If that's true, then why did you run out of gas? Is your eyeline correct? That matters the most. Oh, also your face. Well, we'll fix that in post. Will Chris ever act again? Will he ever feel joy? Will we hear Wade laugh? And if we do, oh boy, Miss Golden leaves by a week. Wonder if Ingrid will ever speak. Best no-budget film ever made. 'Cause they call him One Take Wade. Oh, One Take Wade. Yeah, yeah, yeah. One Take Wade.